Alright, moving along with our remit. Currently, anyone can add a temperature and anyone can read the temperature, but our remit says we do not want anyone to change the temperature. And the question is how many people can, and it says in principle only one, but in the future we will give access to more. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. Alright, let's do this part. Basically, we need to control who has access to the method. So if we look at the Scripto docs in RADX DLT, and we go to language description, and we have a section called access control. All right, we need to study this. So different from Ethereum, where access control is based on the caller address, in Scripto, authorization is granted in the form of badges. Any actor is allowed to take a privileged action if the proper authority to do so is present. This gives us much more flexibility in defining security rules. Okay, let's look at what is a badge. A badge isn't a primitive type, it's a way of referring to a resource that is used mainly for authorization. A badge can be either a fungible or a non-fungible resource, depending on your use case. For example, you need a non-fungible badge if you want to associate data to an individual badge unit, or a fungible badge may be appropriate to define an authorization role that is provided to many users' components. Let's look at this as real-life examples. A fungible badge could be something like a wristband that you wear to get into a nightclub. They're identical for that specific night and they go to many, many users. A non-fungible badge would be something like a specific seat ticket for a football match or for a concert where each ticket is unique to a seat. And in our case, because potentially we could add more users, we need to create a fungible badge. Okay, let's look at our Hello World project. Now it says that a badge is basically a resource. So if we take this and we go into our advanced temperature and we paste it here, we can make a few changes to it and make it into a badge. Now, instead of my bucket, let's call it badge. It's a resource builder and we've already decided we want a fungible one, and the name will be admin badge. We don't need a symbol for it because we're not going to share it with anybody. Initially we'll create one. And something we have to do here, we have to add another property which is called divisibility, and we have to set it to divisibility none because we want to keep the badge whole. Alright, so as you can see here we have a problem. So what happens when we publish this? We declare that we're going to have a badge, we tell it the name of the badge, and we tell it to create one badge. Then we tell it that the badge cannot be divisible, so it creates it, then we're telling it the property. So this property has to come before we create the badge. And in our struct, we have to have an admin badge, which will be the address of the badge. And in self, we have admin badge, which is the resource address of the badge. All right. Almost there. Okay, I'm going to publish this, but there will be an error. And because I have changed the struct, I can't use the flag, so I've got to publish it newly. Grab the package address and call the instantiate temp function. And this is where we will get an error. All right, so here's the error. Drop failure bucket. So we have an error with a bucket. So if we look here, we've said that badge is a bucket, and then we don't do anything with it. So what we need to do here is this. So we need to tell it to return the component address and the bucket. So to return the component address, we're going to say this. So it's going to return the component and the badge, and then this whole thing here we're going to say the component is self and the bucket is terminated. Okay, save this. I haven't changed the struct, so I can republish it at the same package address. And we have updated the package with no errors. Now, to find out more about this, if we go into the RADX documents and we go into resources, it tells us here resources must always be stored in special containers, either a vault or a bucket. A vault is a permanent storage, a bucket is temporary. You use the bucket when you're moving something from one place to another, and when you finish the transaction, whatever's in the bucket has to be put somewhere or default back to where it came from. Now let's use the badge. So back to access control, introduction and proofs. One of the important conventions of badge usage is that under normal usage they are not normally actually withdrawn from a vault and passed around. Instead, a proof is created and used to prove that an actor has access to the badge. Alright, let's do that. For the new temperature we want to restrict access. So in here we are going to add authorization, which we'll call auth, and that is of type proof. And before we allow the person to change the temperature, we have to check they have the correct badge. So we use auth, and then from auth we are going to validate the proof. And we'll have a look at this in a minute, but what we're going to say is this. So we're going to do proof validation mode, validate contains amount, and then in here we're going to check that we have the admin badge and that the decimal is 1. And if that's okay, we'll continue, and if not, we will print an error message, invalid badge, amount or address. So what this is actually checking, it's checking we have the correct badge, that there is one of them, and it's from the correct address. If anything is wrong, it will fail. There's a whole section here on authorization. It goes into different ways you can validate things and more details. It is something that you should study if you want to become a serious programmer in Scripto. Alright, publish as the same package address, instantiate the component and grab the component address. And let's have a look at what we've done here. So resim component. So in our struct we have a hash map and a resource address. So let's grab that resource address and let's call it badge. And let's have a look at our account. And in our account we can see the admin badge with the same resource address. Okay, let's add a temperature. So we're going to call the method from the component, the new temperature method, and we are going to add a city code. We're going to add a temperature, and we're going to add the badge. Now there's no space here, and if we do that, all should be good. Now let's read it. So call the method from the component, and we'll read 001. And it tells us the temperature of 1 is 23.5 degrees. Now if we try this from another account, so let's do a new account. Then we set the default account to new account with a new private key. So this will be entry number 2, 12.6, and again 1 and badge. Now this account doesn't own the badge, doesn't have the badge, so it says no such resource in account, so it doesn't work. We can try it without the badge. And again, it tells us here we get an error, so it doesn't have the badge, so it fails. So all is good on our badge. Now we have to add the fee, which we'll do in the next video. Thank you for watching.